Okay, so a couple days ago, I finished my very first read of 2025. I was juggling 4 books at once, which is actually 2 more than I've ever done at one time. So I'm so glad that I finished one because my brain cannot compartmentalize that many books. So I'm not going to give you guys any spoilers because you know that I don't do that to you. But the book that I read was Tell Her Story, and it is by Margot Hunt, and I did the audio of this book. It's a tiny little novella. It's about 2.5 hours long, but the narration is absolutely fantastic. So the main character of this book was narrated by Dakota Fanning. It is also narrated by 6 other people, so that just made it absolutely fantastic because each character had their own voice, and I loved that. Now, novellas are always a hit or miss with me because it's very difficult for an author to be able to put an entire story in such a tiny little book. But this book was absolutely successful. So Margot Hunt did it. It was fantastic. So this is the story about Paige, who was a journalist, and she is fired from her job and loses her boyfriend at the exact same time. So she is kind of forced to move in with her sister and her brother-in-law, and she's staying in their guest home. And she also gets a job at her brother-in-law's bar/restaurant as a waitress so that she can have some income. Now, her sister Ash comes to her one day because she's not really happy with how Paige's life is going, and she's not going to accept it. So she gives Paige kind of the idea to start a podcast, and they toss out what they could have the podcast be about. And Ash suggests that Paige do a podcast on a woman named Jessica Cady, who was the victim of a hit and run over a decade ago, and it was never solved. Paige decides that she is going to take this on. So along with her waitressing job, she dives right into this podcast, and it becomes very successful. And that's all I'm going to say about that because I don't want to give anything else away. But I really, really was impressed with this book. I was impressed with the narrating of it. I was impressed how much story was put into 2.5 hours. It was fantastic. So do I recommend this? Yes, I thought it was great. So that's it, guys. My first read of 2025, and hopefully I'll finish the other 3 books soon. Until next time, guys, keep smiling.